Excellent. Angela, it's wonderful to meet you. Thank you so much for taking a minute out today.
Thank you so much for having me.
You bet. So before we get into your good work, I want to begin our conversation with this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was changing everything for everyone. How did you ultimately survive the pandemic of 2020, and how is that radiated into your world in 2025 today?
Oh my gosh, the blessings of the pandemic for me, right? The bright side of it, in such a difficult time for the world, was I had a lot of time to think about decisions and the decisions I had made that gotten me to that point and what I wanted for the future. And in that time, at least for me, I was so shocked that the whole world could just stop the way that it did. I was like, oh my gosh, like jobs, this, lockdown, like what does this mean? When will it end? And so that really got me thinking a lot about how do I make myself, um, or how can I be more resilient during turbulent times like this? How can I set myself up? What do I need to do? And so I was going through some personal transitions at that time, and which also got me thinking about my future. And one of the major decisions that I made, which was life altering for many reasons, is that it was when I decided to make that decision to join the Air Force Reserves.
Yeah.
I started talking to a recruiter early 2020, and the lockdown situation really made me just make that decision. It was kind of like uh, the last thing that I needed to move forward. And there were a lot of factors that came into making that decision, but this was like the one that finally sealed the deal. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
It's
And
interesting.
so on August 5th, 2020, I signed, I swore in and signed the dotted line. And I was one of the first people and only people to be sworn in virtually because it's normally a thing that happens in person. And so my recruiter was there online, and my mom tried to tune in, and it was just this whole really interesting dynamic. But yeah, so that was probably the biggest
Wow.
decision I made during lockdown in 2020. And then I was shipped off to boot camp on January 12th, 2021. So
Wow. That's fascinating. That is quite I don't know. That's huge. I mean, to do that during that time
huge.
of uncertainty, um, we always get nostalgic about things that happened right before the shutdown, and you just sparked a memory, and I totally kind of forgot about this. In Kansas City, we used to have a fan fest for the baseball team in
Hmm.
January before spring training. And I remember at that time, and this means more now than ever because of what's going on in the country. At that time, Salvador Perez, our catcher, got sworn in and became naturalized in front of all of us. And I just remembered
Wow.
that when you said you got sworn in, what a special moment, especially now with all of the things that are happening. So, um,
Yeah.
but yeah, anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was one of the best decisions of my life. I
Yeah,
have this kind of big, bold moves philosophy that I live by,
sure.
and this is certainly a big, bold move that I made, and it continues to reward me. So
Would you say that's one of the biggest risks or decisions that you've made professionally or otherwise in your life?
I've made many huge ones.
Yeah.
Like I lived in Sierra Leone for 2 years during Ebola. I went
Wow.
to go work on a project there, having never met the people that hired me in person until I got there. So I've done a lot of things like this that seem crazy sometimes. Um, but yeah, being joining the Air Force Reserves was definitely one of the biggest. Probably was it top five? Yeah, I'd say probably top five
Yeah.
biggest decisions I've ever made, and I'm so glad I did. One of the best decisions ever.
For sure. So let's get into what you do right now in 2025. To do that, kids always pull the truth out of us. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds at career day. The kid in the back of the room that's the most curious is like, what do you do for a living? How do you answer them?
Yes. So the 12-year-old response is that I help businesses and organizations tell stories.
Okay.
That's all types of stories. So I think that's the best explanation for what I do.
That makes sense. So what did you want to be when you were 12 years old? What was your dream job?
when I was 12 years old, so I'm trying to think because I went through like the phases of like my eras of growing up of like what I wanted to be. At 12 years old, I wanted to be an archaeologist. I was in my archaeological era
Uh-huh.
when I was 12.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So take me back to the beginnings. Where were you born and raised? What were these foundational elements that have given you this grit, that have given you this determination to help, to be an entrepreneur, to be successful, to travel? What were these elements that were planted that evolved into who you are today?
Yeah, so I would say my parents. I'm a first generation American. My mother and my father are both Cuban.
Yeah.
I lost my father in 2019, but he gave me a lot of life lessons. I was raised predominantly by the most incredible, like incredible women of all time. I'm talking women that have been through it in their own journeys to get to the United States and then to try to survive and make a life for themselves here in the United States. I think from the ages of 2 to 7, I feel like I barely saw my mom. She was working 3 jobs and she worked all the jobs.
Wow.
She worked as a housekeeper. She worked scrubbing floors. She did the jobs that are, I don't know how I could do those jobs. And my aunt, who was significantly older than my mom's, there's a lot of siblings. It was a big, big family. And my mom was the youngest of 13. My aunt was the oldest. So my aunt came to United States with my mom, and she was the matriarch, really. And so my aunt helped raise us. And my aunt's another woman that till this day, I'm still seeing things she said to me about things like style and how you present yourself and get dressed. You better iron that. You better iron that shirt. You are not walking out of this house with a wrinkled shirt on. You're going to have self-respect for yourself. You're going to walk out. We didn't have a lot of, I mean, we were American poor, if you will, right? American poor, not like poverty poor, but we were American poor. And I grew up with very little. But I saw these women turn little into a whole lot. And I was never in need of anything. And so I do remember when I did want to start having things, probably influenced by kids at school or whatever, that my mom was like, I mean, she's like, look, I literally, I would love to buy this for you, but we don't have the budget for this. And so I was like, okay, what if I brought it myself? And so at a 13, I started a babysitting business and I started babysitting and tutoring kids. At one point, I was making like $500 a month. And so I started buying my own stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is good and this helps my mom. It takes pressure off of my mom and my older sister and just everyone. I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And I started helping kids read in my building where we lived. The other moms would say, oh, can you, my son's behind his reading levels. Can you help him? I'll pay you $20 an hour. Yes, I will go to your house as many hours as you need. I'll go upstairs after school, like whatever you need. And that really, I learned work ethic from my mom and
Yeah.
my aunt and my family. And and then I realized the power of um, earning stuff
Yeah.
and not, nothing was ever handed to me, ever. And so I really took a lot of that work ethic that I carry. Here's the other interesting thing. Um, I never missed a day of school,
Wow.
ever. I have a certificate to prove it.
Wow.
Yeah, my mom's like, "How sick are you today?" Like, so I'll pick you up early. You're going to school. If you unless you're like bedridden, you're
Yeah.
going to school. And luckily, I was a pretty healthy kid. Didn't really ever get too sick ever. And so I went to school. My mom's like, "Your education, you're going to school.
Yeah.
You're going to school. You have sniffles? Okay, I'll pick you up early. You're going to school.
Wow.
You're getting that attendance. You're going to get checked off for the attendance and I'll pick you off in fourth period or whatever it was, but you're going.
Yeah.
Wake up, get dressed. You're going to school."
Wow.
And I think for my mom, it was like she couldn't afford to take sick days
Sure.
sometimes,
Hmm.
or she'd get fired. So my mom went to work, and that's where I get this from. That's where I get my work ethic from.
So having a jazz radio show, some of my favorite musicians and one of my favorite cultures is the Cuban culture. one of my
Yes.
favorite musicians, and he's kind of we're acquaintances, is Arturo Sandoval, and he had one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. He came through Kansas City for one of our Charlie Parker festivities, but I've always felt like that as much as I love the Cuban culture, I'm heartbroken that America never opened those diplomatic doors and it was so cold for so long. It would have created so much goodwill and it would have allowed that culture to kind of cross consume each other because
Yes.
it is such a wonderful culture of music and movement. It's like I remember at one point I interviewed a wonderful legend named Randy Weston, and he used to go to Africa all the time, and he explained to me why jazz swings. And he said, when you go to Africa, the trees swing, the elephant tail swings, everything swings. So
Yes.
when it came to America and it became this art form, it swang and it mimicked nature. And then it became this thing. And I think about that with the Cuban culture. Like I just think about like the old world of Brooklyn or whatever with the radios and the windows and everybody's out, right? Playing, mingling with neighbors and music, music, music. That's the backbone. So, how much of that vibrant
Yes.
tapestry of life that came into you from Cuba is a part of that?
Oh my gosh. Almost everyone in my family, even though they didn't work in music, are musicians. My mom can play those keys. My mom can play the piano. I grew up then playing the piano. I sang in choir my whole life. Then I
Yeah.
danced ballet for years. Um, Sunday mornings, music.
Wow.
Saturdays, my mom's cleaning her fabuloso, because you have to do fabuloso. That stuff really gets the grime out.
Yes.
And it'd be music playing. It'd be Celia playing. It would be, and so I grew up listening to music. My mom came to the United States right around, well, just before the Harlem Renaissance, but she lived in New Jersey. I was born in Jersey City, New
Okay.
Jersey.
Yeah.
And my mom lived in New York for 18 years before I
Wow.
was born. During this time, music and the drums and is in every, like, it's deeply ingrained
Yeah.
into my being.
Wow.
um and every, it's just, music is everything, and there's history in music,
Yeah.
and there's coping in music, and being of Afro-Cuban descendant,
Yeah.
there's so much there that tells stories of our history and our culture. And so music is uh, music is everything. I cannot imagine a world where, and I'm so grateful that these influences and these musics did come to the United States and had the impact that it's had and continues to have
Yeah.
in the United States. And so jazz is, I learned about jazz from my aunt who played, Coltrane, who played all the greats. And I still listen to jazz on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so it is, the blues.
Yeah.
And I learned about all this music because of my family.
Yeah.
I remember even in elementary school, I'm like into stuff that other kids are not into. And I'm like, how are you not into this? It's so
I
good.
know.
It's like, this is music. Yeah, I was already one of those like old grandmas on the porch. This music doesn't sound good. This is the good music,
Yep. That's it.
I've been that person forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been that person forever. And so, yeah, jazz music is at the core.
Yeah. So, you've traveled a lot. What was one of
Yes.
the most magically beautiful places that was unexpected that you've traveled to?
Um, Gosh, there's so many places.
Yeah.
I have to say the first place that will always be in my heart is Paris, because as a little girl, and I have journals, my journals still 14, 15, 16 years old, cutting out pictures of the Eiffel Tower, and just the Eiffel Tower, Paris,
Yeah.
and all the stories and the old movies, because also I grew up watching these old movies as well that my mom watched and everything. And I remember stories, movies of Paris in the background, and Paris at the center of these stories. And so Paris for a long time was like, gosh, that's when that I really want to go to Paris since I was a little girl. So when I finally got to Paris for the first time, I was weeping. I was just weeping. Um, tears of joy. And Paris is everything I thought it would be and continues to be that and more. And I've been so fortunate that I've gone to Paris more than once. And so Paris has a very deep um, connection to me. My last name is a French last name. That's a very famous last name in France.
Yeah.
No connection, though I'm still trying to find those connections.
Sure.
The L'Oreal family, I'm like, are you sure I'm not a long,
Right.
distant cousin?
Just just
Because,
just
I
get me in
mean,
there.
yeah, just squeeze me in there.
Yeah.
My birthday's on Bastille Day, which is July
Okay.
14th.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's all of these little things that I just have always romanticized and felt, and I speak French. I've taught myself French. So Paris, amazing. But there are so many other beautiful places um, that have resonated with me that I've been to. Uh, like Bangkok,
Yeah.
the people, so light, so nice, so friendly. I didn't speak the language. I just felt very welcomed there.
Yeah.
Especially in the old town part of Bangkok that I got a chance to explore. Beautiful. There's these temples, these Buddhas, my goodness. Japan, Tokyo. Wow.
Yeah.
Tokyo, Japan in general. I was there last summer. Wow. I can't wait to go back. First of all, I heard Tokyo was a big city, but wow,
Yeah.
mind blowing, overwhelming. The Japanese people are the culture. There's a lot to be said about that. And then
Yeah.
another place that I really loved, truly that I really loved, and I love the people there and talk about music and vibrancy is Sao Paulo.
Wow, yeah.
The
Yeah.
Brazilians are
Oh,
a
yeah.
force of nature. What
I
awesome people.
David Blaine has this series where he travels the countries, and we started watching it, and Brazil was the first place, and I just had no idea because there's so many Brazilian soccer players. Like there's an indoor team, and my
Yes.
son, he's on the spectrum. He's 20 years old. He loves all these players, and one of his favorite ones is from Brazil, and they just roll, they hum at a different vibration. It's
Yes.
just,
There's such a vibration there.
totally.
Such a vibration. The Brazilian people, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, there's so many places. It's hard. It's like picking a favorite child, there's so
Yeah.
many places.
So I flew to Paris on September 4th, 2001. I got stuck in Europe on 9/11. I was
Oh,
in the
interesting.
I was in the back of a water taxi. Yeah, I it was a whole thing, but I remember going to Paris and I loved it. I mean, the museums and everything. And I remember at one point I went up to like the third floor and I looked over Paris and it just took my breath away. I was like, "Oh my God." Like it was this dense metropolis that we've read about our whole lives.
Yes.
And I didn't see it on the ground. Like I went to jazz shows, I got a good baguette, I found a great bottle of wine, I'm going to intermingle. But you know what the other thing that got me about Paris was? The intermingling of different peoples. It felt comfortable. It felt like
Yes.
all of the things that America wanted to be in that revolutionary time of the
Yes.
60s.
I agree with you. I just got some goosebumps. Thank you for sharing that. I love people's Paris experiences.
Yeah,
And to your point, I always make a point of finding high things that can go up to really kind of get this, top down view of a city,
yeah.
right? Doesn't it just give you, I mean, literally it's literally a different perspective,
It's
but isn't
insane.
it also just like, right? Like you
Yeah.
need to experience cities from these higher points
100%.
always.
100%.
Yes.
That's such a good point because I didn't realize it when I was there and I just accidentally saw it. But I just realized because Europe just is kind of like an accordion scrunched up. America's like extended out,
Yes.
but there's a beauty in that compact, and there's a beauty because we're so young in this country. But when you go to places like that, you realize the antiquity and how many of those monuments and everything has been there way before the word America was even uttered, right? So
Yes.
it's wild.
Exactly. It's wild. It's
Mm.
wild. It's wild. And I did have that same experience because I went to the top of the Eiffel Tower and I remember looking out into Paris and I went up to the Tokyo Sky Tree, which looks like the Seattle Space Needle
Yeah.
energy, to look, across. And so yes, I highly recommend people find these tall structures, go all the way to the top because it obviously it's a different perspective literally, but it's a different perspective, what emotionally, like contextually.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how to describe it, but yes, I always get goosebumps about that. Sao Paulo is one of these places that's like, I think there's 20 million people live in Sao
Oh, it's
Paulo, and
insane. Yeah.
it's like 25 Manhattans put together,
Yeah.
and the skyscrapers and these buildings, just you can't see the end of them. It
Yeah.
goes right up to the horizon. You're like, what is happening?
Crazy.
Like, this is crazy. And yeah, yeah. Thank you for bringing that up,
Yeah.
because I agree with you so much. Like, to see those cities from these vantage points, and then when you roll in the historical significance of, especially in Europe. I
Yeah.
went to Prague.
Oh, wow.
Prague is Prague is another place. How could I forget Prague? Prague is another place that people would tell me, "Oh, Prague is the jewel of Europe." And then you get there and you're like, talk about people that honor and preserve their history
Yeah.
on another level. I went to a
Totally.
bar that has been continuously open with like two exceptions for 600 years.
That's crazy.
I was like,
I know.
America's a bar.
Yeah.
America's not 600 years old.
We're nowhere close.
Nowhere close. And meanwhile, I'm sitting in this bar that I'm like, this is a Game of Thrones set,
I know.
right? Like Jon Snow is coming in any second
Yep.
now. And they've maintained so much of the aesthetic, of whatever this is. And
Yep.
in some, the barkeep person told me that they try to not use electricity too much, because electricity is new.
Yeah.
It's a new thing for that bar.
Yeah.
And so they still have this like candlelit. It's wild. It's
It's like,
absolutely wild. A
it's like the
bar that's older than America.
yeah, it's like the Wrigley Field before they got lights, you know? It's the antiquity.
Yes.
It's totally wild.
Yeah.
So speaking, let's take that metaphor of being high above and looking down. If you had a dream tonight, ran into the 18-year-old version of you ready to rip out into the world and do it, what advice would you give that younger self based on the journey that you've had and the wisdom you've accumulated? What would you tell your younger self?
18. What was I doing at 18 years old? So it was still at 18, it was college. Um, I think I would tell my 18-year-old self to stop stressing out about the current situations I was in.
Yeah.
One, life gets so, you get so many more responsibilities as time goes on, and families and this, that, and the other. But I, I don't think I'm fully recovered. I think I'm almost recovered. But at 18, I cared way too much about what other people thought of me,
Yeah.
almost to a crippling point. And traveling is what helped me start this journey of trying to get over that a little bit.
Yep.
Because I'm like, who are these people that I'm even worried about? There's like 6 billion at the time, six whatever billion people on earth, and people that I met that didn't think anything about me, except for they maybe thought I was interesting because, oh, where you're coming from, America? Cool, like talk to me. Um, that's the thing about travel for me, is that it's the best educate. It's one of the best educations
Uh-huh.
about myself I've ever had,
Yeah.
that I don't think I would have had it not traveled. And once I started that traveling journey is when I started this. It was like my aha moment, basically.
Yeah.
And at 18, I was just too uh, scared. Even though I was doing amazing, even though I was working towards my dreams, and I'm proud of the things that I accomplished at that age and with university, and the things that I was able to achieve at that time, there was another side of me that was like anxious
Uh,
and parent, worried too much about things that I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I
I know.
waste time
I know.
on that? Why did I waste so much time on that person, on this situation, when in the end of the day, I just was not that courageous to, um, and it's interesting because it was so many things existing at once that were contradictory in my
Hmm.
life. Another thing, there's so many contradictions in my life. Thriving here, anxious here, killing it in this area. school, academics, internships, boom, 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 awesome jobs, this, that, and the other, meeting fun celebrities and whatever. But then on the other side, there was just this anxiety around, I don't even know, honestly. It was like, why was I so worried about
Yeah.
this person's opinion of me and these social situations and these groups of people and that clique of friends and trying to fit in with people that just were not my tribe, to be
Yeah.
honest. Not my
It's
tribe.
it's
I
the
don't know why I tried so hard. I
yeah.
still don't know.
It's the bane of youth. It's almost like you have to be around long enough to get it and to realize it's just not that important, you know?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
wisdom. So
Yeah.
of all of these journeys you've been on, of the evolutionary path to this point in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I'm proud that I started finding it within me to just go after the big things I wanted to do.
Yeah,
You know, and I'm still honestly, I'm still like on that journey and I'm so happy about it. It's for me, it's been about um making those big bold moves. I didn't make certain decisions to do things that I was like excited to do with the fear of like, how would my friend group think like what, what does this mean and all of this. And when I finally started to break from that, I'm extremely proud of that. Because once I started making those big decisions and doing those things, boy, life started rewarding me in ways I it was like a switch. It was wild. And so that's a truth that I really still try to live every day. Um, and I hope other people can start living that truth too, of listening to that that desire and that I can't remember where I heard this from. Somebody, I was watching a podcast or a YouTube video, and oh my gosh, I can't remember who was it, but it stuck with me. Oh, maybe it was like Mel Robbins, one of these really big influential people that said, um, I don't I don't envy people that live in Dubai because I don't. Oh, I know who it is now. I think it was Glennon Doyle. So it's one of these people
sure.
was like, I don't think about living in Dubai and I'm not concerned about people living in Dubai and nothing about someone in a big penthouse in Dubai appeals to me. But seeing someone go out there and write that dream novel, that triggered me. And then it's realized because I want to be a writer. And so these are the things, these are the signs. I'm like, I don't think about people in Dubai because I have nothing to do with Dubai. But that writer, that triggered me.
Yeah,
And for someone else, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I wish I had a penthouse in Dubai. That's a sign of a bigger calling for yourself.
yeah.
And so when I started paying attention to those, it really was life changing. And
So
once I was like, I'm going to go do this thing and I'm going to
yeah,
live, the best version of myself, boy, that was transformative and continues to be transformative.
for sure.
I
So
want to hear from you though. Can you tell me like what you would tell your 18-year-old self? Because I love that you have this platform. I love that you're
yeah,
having these conversations with people. And I always think when people go out there and start this thing, like for you to start this
yeah.
is awesome. And so like what would you tell your 18-year-old self?
I would tell myself it's okay to be bolder. It's okay to let things go that aren't going
Mhm.
to serve you. It's okay to acknowledge that you got a lot more to learn, those
Yeah.
kinds of things, just because you just don't know it, because there's these pivotal points in your life. And a big thing, like you said, with travel, I remember the first time I had a pen pal in high school that we were
Pen
just,
pals.
yeah, are you
Yes.
kidding me? It's old school, right? And
Old school.
and she was from Italy. I had like five or six of them, but one of them that stuck, she was from Italy. Her name was Deborah, and she was just right outside of Florence. And my family's from Italy. All my ancestors came from there. So I was going to go to the homeland. So I was going to travel out there. I remember what a big deal it was to learn the language. There was still lira, $1 with 2,000. You so many thousands, you get confused. So there was this whole thing, and I remember how. I never really let anybody know until a lot of years later, but I was terrified. I'm like, I'm going all alone. I'm going to a foreign country, but it was the best thing ever. I mean, I saw antiquity and peoples and my ancestry, all of these things, and it was like, wow, I'm like on my own. I can do it. So that 18-year-old version of me, I would have said, look, it's okay, man. You just need to go and be you. And you hear that with celebrities and sports personalities all the time. Just be me. Stay in the zone. Just be you. I think that's the
Mm,
thing at 52 that I've realized. Whenever you get nervous, just pull yourself in. If you try and you do the best you can and you go to bed comfortably at night, just tell yourself, be you. Don't deviate. Don't be anybody else. Imposter syndrome, sick. It can be a sickness. Just
oof.
go. Be you, right?
Yeah,
So
I
that's
love that.
yeah, that's it. So I got to know at the end of the day, everyone has this perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh, I who do I think I am? What's my perception of me? Um, Bold and fearless is the direction. It's the I'm a mom and wife and a hard worker. But my perception of me is, I think if I had to pick a word, I'd like to say creator. I like to create things. I like to put things out into the world. And that's something that again, my 18-year-old self, I didn't honor that about her. And so I'm really still feeling like I'm catching up to making up for all that time of creating stories, creating adventure, creating opportunities. And um, yeah, so I mean, that's such a good question, such a deep question. Um, I think I'm a kind, adventurous, um, bold living person
I love
in
it.
constant in constant evolution of that person I want to be. I think it's a process. And it's like the finding the courage for one thing makes me like, okay, I think I'm ready for this next step now.
Yeah.
Oh, I did that. Awesome. Like I honored that about myself. Life rewarded me for honoring that part of myself. And now I'm like ready for the next thing. And so constantly building on these things and trying to honor this version of myself and trying to honor the things that I've wanted to do. And so it's not a concise answer, but that's kind of
Yeah.
the
I,
framing.
yeah.
Um,
I totally get it. It makes total sense. So if anyone wants to hire you, they have questions, they want to reach out, any of the good business, where do they go?
LinkedIn's a great place to go and find me. You can find me through Bancourt Group. You can find me through Angela Betancourt. I have the scuba diving banner in the front,
Yeah.
in the top there. So there's other Angela Betancourts. So if you don't see my face or you find my face and you're not sure it's me, my little scuba diving banner is going to be the giveaway. Through my website, my business website, there's a little contact form. I do those messages go directly to an inbox I monitor, so that's a good place. Um, yeah, I would say those are really good places to start to hire me, to learn a little bit more about me. I offer 30-minute consultations for free. So you can also go to the website and sign up for one of those. I love those. So yeah, I'd say that's LinkedIn and my website are definitely the two best places.
I will put those in the show notes. Angela, this has been absolutely delightful. Thank you so much for your
Thank
story,
you so much.
for your wonderful energy. Thank you so much, and happy travels. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Likewise to you too. Likewise. Same
Looking
to
to
you.
get new clients to your business through cold calling or email marketing? At Agency Y, they envision a world in which small and big companies have equal chances to win new customers in the market. Their purpose is to bring parity and reduce the gap between large and small firms with the help of their cold calling and cold email marketing services. Use the code Joe Dimino 10 at www.agencyyy.org/coldcallingjoe.php or www.agencyyy.org/emailmarketingjoe.php to get 10% off your first order. This is Joe Dimino of Neon Jazz and Famous Interviews, and I stand behind Agency Y to meet your business dreams.